You know, it seems when it comes to real estate, everybody wants a piece of land, but what if you could get a piece of land and already have a house on it? And what if the land and the house is a bank-owned property? You would think you'd get a great deal, right? That's not always the case. It could be a disaster. I'll show you why. I got my shorts on today. Because where we're going, it's gonna be real hot. See, where we're going isn't so much about this specific house. It's the mistakes that people make when they buy a foreclosure, when they buy land, and when they buy a house. So look, when it comes to buying real estate, it's not just buying a house or buying a foreclosure or buying land. It's buying any of it. Anything that you purchase can absolutely be a nightmare. I'll show you why. That's a good neighbor to have if the house is close by, and that is that's a full-fledged working farm right there. Pretty awesome. Oh, here it is, right here. Oh, it's not that bad at all. Right across the street from a vacant piece of land and a huge farm. It's a really nice house. It is a foreclosure on 10 acres. It wraps all the way around. It's got like 300 or 400 feet of road frontage. This house had a reverse mortgage on it. That means that the person that owned this house, it was paid for, and they took the property itself and the value of the property, had it appraised, have to close like a traditional mortgage, and then they receive money against this house. And unfortunately, if you receive money and you can't pay it, if you can't pay, you don't stay. Ooh, it's hotter than the devil's armpit out here. Geez alive. Listen, when you buy a house like this, any house, you always want to do your due diligence, especially if it's a foreclosure and it's on land. You just never know what you're getting. The keys. So I'm going to walk you through this one. There's stuff everywhere. Unfortunately, when people get evicted from their homes, and yes, even though it's your home, as I mentioned, if you don't pay, you don't stay, they will put you on the street, literally. So look, when you buy a house like this, any house for that matter, you make your money when you buy, and you want to make sure that the property that you're purchasing and buying is not only worth what you're paying for it now, but what it's going to be worth after you make the improvements. Now, what you see there are personal belongings everywhere, and it's just kind of, it is what it is. On these types of foreclosures, they don't do anything. You're buying it just like you see it. All in all, this house on a scale of 1 to 10 in its condition, I'd give it about a 7, 6.5. For that on a foreclosure, that's really good. A lucky number. There's a half bath there. There's a full bath there. It's really nice. Got 8 foot, 9 foot ceilings, cathedral ceilings. This is the main bedroom here, so it's got 10-foot ceilings. This house is pretty rough, but like I said, as long as everything works, but you got to make sure everything works. Cabinets are actually oak cabinets. I mean, the countertops, you can easily swap those out. So this is the well right here. There's probably about a 250 to 400 foot deep well down into the ground. They physically drill down into the earth. Once they hit water, they'll bring it back up. Now they connect a pump to this, which is ran off electricity, and that electricity pumps water into this tank. It holds it in that tank at about 55 to 60 psi, pounds per square inch, and it will send it from here into the house. Damn, when it's hot, it makes you think crazy. So a septic system is what's on this property. That means it has its own private septic system. There's no sewer system. It's right here on the property. And typically it's on the side of the yard or out in the front of the yard. I haven't seen it yet. When I locate it, I'll show it to you. But you better make sure that's working. As a matter of fact, the county or the parish, they make you make sure that's working. Now, when you're a seller selling the property, you got to make sure it's working. But when you're a buyer buying a foreclosure like this, it's your responsibility. But look, that doesn't mean you're going to get a bad deal or somebody's going to rob you blind. That just means that you have to do your due diligence. I can tell you for the most part, a lot of banks, they will take and make sure that the well's working, the septic's working, and everything's working. Some banks, they do not. So you just never know, because you'll sign about 50 documents that basically says you're on your own. Ooh, believe it or not, that's a cool breeze. So well's the same way. You've got a well on the property, and the well run you $4,000 to $5,000 if you're going to put a brand new well. Oh, there's the septic. So remember I told you I'd show you the septic? That's it right there. So that's your clean out to the septic system. Sorry, I get that way sometimes. Squirrel. But it's not all that crazy expensive. All of that said and done, you've got to look at the overall inspection of the property. You got to look at the well, you got to look at the survey, because you want to make sure no one is encroaching upon your property. You want to make sure that it's got a clear deed and title. You want to make sure that there's no encroachments, encumbrances, or anything that's connected to your property that may hurt the value and give you much added stress. Now I can tell you this property's in pretty good shape. It has broken windows, but I'll show you what I mean by broken windows. Broken windows doesn't necessarily mean a broken window. It means a fogged window. So when you see windows like this that are fogged, you probably have these in your house or seen somebody in somebody's house. That can actually be moved and replaced. You see the little tracks right here? You can pull that out and replace it per pane. You don't have to replace the entire window. However, to replace this and to replace the one at the bottom will run you about $225. To replace that whole window may just run you $300. But I can tell you my pet peeves. My pet peeves is I don't think you should have any more than about 3 floors in a house that's less than 3,000 square feet, meaning that don't do 9 shades of carpet, hardwood, vinyl, bunch of shades of tile. Same way with the windows. If you're going to replace windows in your house, don't replace 1 or 2 windows. Don't even fool with it. That's called half-assing it. Don't do that. If you're going to replace the windows in your house, replace all the windows. That's like literally replacing a portion of your roof. Don't do it. And yes, when it comes to a foreclosure, they even leave food that's in the pantry. It's cooler out here than it is in there. Now when you buy these houses, you can get great buys on any house, but you just don't know until you know what it's going to be valued at after you purchase the property. So you got to know what is the improved value of the home. So in other words, if I go through and I got to replace windows, I got to replace flooring, I got to paint the whole house, I got to put a new roof on it, you got to subtract all those items out. And if you got a bank like this one that won't take they won't take a dime less than $300,000 is what they're asking for this house. It's for sale, Covington, Louisiana. They won't take any less. So you have to literally look at, okay, if I had to put $40,000 to $50,000 in it on top of the $300,000 that I'm buying it for, is it worth it? Now, how you do all this is quite simple. Whenever you make the offer to purchase a property, you have your time frame, typically 10 to 14 days to do all of your inspections. If you like what you see, you want to move forward, you can. If you don't, you can cancel the contract, you get your deposit back, move on to the next property. Now, to buy that property with a conventional loan, you're going to need 5% down. It's $300,000. 5% of $300,000 is $15,000. You're also going to need closing costs. They run you anywhere from 3 to 3.5%. So at 3% and $300,000, that's $9,000 on top of the 15. You can buy that house, but it's going to cost you $24,000 out of pocket. mind, when you're buying real estate like the one we just looked at, it's on 10 acres of land. And with 10 acres of land, you typically have a lot of road frontage, meaning that the frontage of the land on the road from one corner to the next, if it's 300 or 400 feet, you can easily subdivide the property. You may only need 6 or 7 acres of land, and if so, you can simply sell off 3 to 4 acres to someone else to cover the cost that you've spent to buy that land. Just another way to make money in real estate.